Hey everybody, Tanya Diamond here, and welcome back to our part two, our next video on Your Life Unleashed full video training. Today we're going to talk about patterns and programs, and I want to really bring about something important when you are doing this training. First of all, you've probably come to me from either a video mini-series, maybe my video masterclass, maybe you've done some one-on-one work with me or one of my group programs. Most people don't get to this video right here unless they've seen or been part of the things that I do. And what I want to say about that is you may have heard different parts of these things in different classes that you've taken. Typically, I go deeper and deeper, right? I start off and then I go deeper and deeper. But I want you to be very attentive to something. We are patterned and programmed. And one of the things that we do when we are learning or taking classes or seeking knowledge, and I guarantee you that you have put a lot of knowledge into your head already. By the time you're probably seeing me, this is not your first rodeo on a self-help, improve yourself, personal development, get, unstuck, doing something. You've probably watched videos, read books, maybe been to workshops, maybe one-on-one coaching with people. So you've been there, done that. And the tendency is when we receive information in our head, the tendency for us to do is say, oh yeah, I know that, I've heard that. As soon as you say, I know, even if you think, oh, I know this, your subconscious mind quits allowing information through. It just doesn't care, doesn't matter, right? The front of your brain says to you, your conscious mind says, I know this. So your subconscious mind says, we don't need to pay attention. So, because it doesn't really have a judgment to it, the subconscious mind, it just listens to what's, going on. But your front of your brain, when it says, I know, says that you don't need this. So if you are indeed thinking, when you hear me say something, I know that, just understand that you've right then stopped your learning. You've stopped your ability to input information. So approach all of this with a completely open mind. Approach all of this as though you've never heard anything of this before. Because here's the other thing. To really know something means we've had to have heard it over 7 times and understood it deeply over 7 times and set up a little connection. Now, just hearing it doesn't mean you know it. Knowing it isn't about being in your head. Knowing it is about the fact that you've heard it, taken action on it, and you've integrated it into your being. So I say knowledge is in the head. Mastery is in the being. So please take a moment and consider that you want to just be completely open like a sponge. Right? Be open like a sponge, because even if you actually do know this and you actually have mastered it, like many of my long-term clients will tell you, people that have worked with me because maybe they're a certified coach with me right now or they've been through some of my longer programs, is that they can hear the same thing from me and 2 years later go, oh my God, I had no idea. Wow, that's what you were talking about. All right, so we're going to pretend we're babies here and everything is brand new. All right, so in fact, let's talk about babies. To survive when we're babies and we're growing up, just like animals, our survival depends on our programs, on our patterns, our ability to learn how to do things that we're observing from around us and that we're being taught. Mostly by observation in the beginning. Most people don't realize how much babies can actually learn right from the get-go, right? So a baby sees you walking and it notes it's not walking. People are wandering around. It cannot move. So in the beginning, maybe it's just flailing its arms and legs, getting them coordinated, learning how to make those motions. It's creating patterns in the brain that they eventually don't have to think about. Because at first it's like, hand, how do I move my hand? Oh, there, my hand moved. How did that work, right? Oh, wow. So then the muscles, everybody, nerve system, everything's developing a pathway through the brain. Pretty soon you don't have to think about moving your hand. You're just like, oh, you reach for something. You didn't have to think about any of that. Thank God, because can you imagine all the stuff we'd have to think about if we had to think about that? So they go from this making motions to crawling, and they develop a pattern with crawling. All babies have different ways they crawl. Once that's solid, then they start to stand up. They are figuring, oh, wait, I'm on fours, need to be upright. People are walking upright. They're not crawling on all fours. So then they're figuring out how to do that. The next thing you know, they're walking, and they're working to walk just like you do. They're taking strides, and they're actually doing it. And it is interesting because they'll even have some physical characteristics of the way you walk embedded in there. That's there. Now, today, we're doing some heinous things with babies and their development. Today, we're putting them in places like car seats. And a car seat only allows, put your hands up beside your head like this. So most car seats are this far out, probably from the baby's face. So everything over here, they cannot see anything. So they're laying there in the car seat like this, where they're pointed upward, laid back like this, pointed upward to the sky, and all the action's happening here and around them. So if we think about that, we have taken a ton, and there's actually some surveys or some studies being done right now that talk about the social impact and babies starting to lack certain social cues and things because they see so little of what's going on. Yes, I didn't know that when I had my baby in a car seat, but she wasn't in a car seat very much because she hated it. So she was usually free-flowing out on the ground or whatever and wandering around. But like carrying your baby on your back is okay, kind of. Usually they can't really see it. They have their head one way or another. Carrying your baby on the front is cool too, except they can't see you. Right? When they can't see you, they don't know what your reactions are to things, and they're trying to gauge that. So, holding your baby on your hip, though it's mega uncomfortable, I'll say for me, mega uncomfortable, allows the baby to see your face, see what it is you're looking at, and start to get information. Something to consider. All right, so all this pattern and programming, it's about building these pathways, and I call them neural pathways that are in our brain, neural pathways. And those paths are traveled upon. Our brain understands really quickly, so they become automatic. It's just like the super highway to whatever you're doing. Super highway to walking. Walking? Easy. At least for most of you. You don't have to think about the things we do every single day because they're patterned into our brain. Having had those traumatic brain injuries, I can tell you that I've had to relearn many things, and it is a freaky thing to consider when you haven't had to think about walking or talking or doing things for 40-something years, and all of a sudden you have to kind of figure that all out again. It's because that pathway was destroyed. If you want to think deeply about what a neural pathway could look like, it'd be, let's say, like a jungle. You're in the jungle, you're in the forest, and it's the first time you're there. So you're taking a trip through the forest, and you're having to hack brush down. You got to get over the blackberries or the nettles or through the vines, and there wasn't a path there. So you cut a path. And you cut it, and you worked hard, and you got to this amazing waterfall in this meeting. You're like, wow, dude, I got to come back here again. This is amazing. And you take the same route back out. Well, the next time you go up that route, it's a little beaten down for last time, so you can kind of follow it. But you've got to beat down again. Stuff has grown up. Now, if you're going back there every day, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, you've blazed a trail. Now, if you're going there multiple times a day, you've worn that groove really fast. And it's an easy trail to walk on. It's right there. Everything grows up around it. You're on the trail. Pretty soon you don't think about going off trail because that path is it. That happens in your brain even before you're born. That's happening in your brain. But as you're walking, moving, talking, anything you're doing, you're creating these pathways in your brain. Now that's really great because your survival depends on it. And it's detrimental in many ways to be too patterned or programmed because getting out of patterns can be tough. Now, way back when, let's say before the electric light bulb, before civilization, well, I know that'd be really far back because we've been civilized in different ways for a long time, but let's go really, really far back when our brains were created, when our brains evolved the way they evolved. It was done for survival mechanisms. And there wasn't as many ways. I mean, there was walking, communication, understanding danger, connecting with your tribe. But there wasn't as many things as there are today that were actually putting down those pathways. And a lot of what we're putting in our pathways today is detrimental and not needed. But once you've gone down that path, right? Once you've gone down that path over and over and over again, you don't think about getting off of it anymore. Let's say the path is that you have been programmed to think you're stupid. That while you were growing up, people said to you, oh, you're just stupid. Your brother said you're stupid. Your father said that, or your grandfather said that. People were telling you you're stupid. Well, at first, you may have thought, well, that's crazy. I don't feel stupid. Eventually, your subconscious mind picks up that thing and you go, oh, I tried to do that, but I'm just stupid. Now you've taken up the cry and you solidify that into your mind. And that pathway is really difficult to get off of it because everything has grown up around it after a while and you don't see any way out. You don't see any way out. Some of you are off the beaten path kind of people. And some of you have been rebelling or defiant, and you don't have, as much stuck areas. You're not as stuck in a lot of places. However, you might be stuck in the thing you don't realize, which is the rebellion pathway. And that means even, because I'm putting my hand up in the air, because even when you're defying all of these things that are there, I was the fighter. My parents would say things to me. I'd be like, what, are you crazy? You're the parents. That's not me. I was defiant to taking in that I was the crazy one in the family, that I was the reason my dad was a drunk, that I was the reason my mom was mentally ill. I refused to accept that from them. But it still gets in, even if you're rebelling against that. But what happens is I took a rebellion path and I created a rebellion pathway, which is different than a revolutionary. A rebellion, which is moving away from things. So what happened later on as I was growing up, I rebelled against everything I was doing. That's not good. I'm going to tell you right now. All right. For the most part, we are very neural pathway people, no matter what, whether we think we are or we think we aren't. Because if you are somebody who never follows a pattern, who never follows the pack, who never does things, you have neural pathways that might be taking away from things that you actually want to follow, right? Okay, so there's patterns with all we do, and a lot of them are physical patterns. And then there's the programming that happens in our subconscious mind. So what happens? Like I just said, your parents tell you this is how you use your knife and fork. But more importantly, this is what we believe. Let's say you're a kid. You want to run outside. It's cold. Your mom drags you back in and says, wear a jacket. You say, I'm not cold. Your mom says, you're going to have to wear a jacket. And we all know that. Okay, so the first thing that's setting up for is that now we're talking about beliefs. Now you're going to believe over time that your body doesn't know what it needs, that you personally can't tell if you're cold or not. This is the subconscious mind when the emotional patterning happenings of learning how to not believe yourself. Put a jacket on, you're cold. I'm not cold. Put the jacket on. Okay, like I said, you can create rebellion pathways, or you start to believe that you absolutely don't understand your own body's needs. You're setting up a belief pattern, a belief program. Now, look, a lot of the times moms are doing this because, of course, they don't want you to die of hypothermia. But the other reason they're doing it is inconvenience. Because if you don't put a jacket on and everybody's going outside and then later you're cold and you're crying and you're fussing, that the whole trip is canceled, things happen like that. So they're not thinking, nobody's being evil here, let's just say, okay? However, we get programmed, and those programs is how we are, what we believe we are, how we should think, how everything goes. This is how it rolls. This is what our family does. Then we get programmed by TV. We get programmed by our teachers. We get programmed by our school. All this programming, because you're a sponge when you're little, goes right into your subconscious mind. You're not even aware of it most of the time. And in fact, almost everything people do, to a huge degree, is unconscious, meaning we just do them. We just do them. 97% of what we do is unconscious, meaning we are not thinking about it. And that includes decisions and other things. And I always like to tell this famous story. And I know a bunch of people have heard this story before, but it's like, Hey, Mom, they're at Christmas. Why do we cut the edges off the ham? Why is it it's sitting like that? And the mom says, well, I don't know. Your grandma used to do that. So the girl goes and asks her grandma, why do we cut the edges off the ham? And grandma says, well, I don't know. My mom used to do that. So the girl goes and asks her great grandma. Great grandma says, well, our oven was really small. The ham didn't fit. So we cut the edges off. Okay. Clearly, you don't need to cut the edges off anymore, but this is what you're probably still doing, right? This is what you're doing. It's the program that you were created, got passed down. No reason to cut the ham off. Okay, that's small and silly compared to a lot of things, but most of the time we're wandering around with our neural pathways and our programming in an unconscious state. Like I said, 97% of what we're doing, we are not even conscious we're doing them, including making really big decisions like who we're going to date, who we're going to marry, what we're doing with our finances. It's crazy. Every single thing has a belief and a program attached to it. And when you think that there's free will, I'm telling you that there is free will, but most of us are not using free will at all. You're not even going to consider that there's another path. Remember that waterfall? You may not consider it that there's another path to that because you've just taken that one all the time. There's nothing wrong with this per se. Like I said, when it was for survival, when you learned that red berries kill you, nobody in your tribe eats red berries, you don't eat red berries. Clearly, that's a great, awesome tool set to never have to think about making that decision every time you see a red berry. Oh, no, don't eat those. You don't even think about it. Pretty soon you don't even see the red berry. The red berries are something that is not on your menu item. And that's a good thing about these things. But I'll tell you, there's, like I said, a lot of stuff that's not going so well. All right, 97%. I always think that. I'm like, wow, that is like really amazing. 97%? Wow, how is that even possible? But it's very true. And I'll tell you that as we work our way out of this unconscious patterning, as we work our way out of the emotional stuckness and all these different stuck places we're in, life opens up in such a way that's so incredible. I can tell you it's pretty darn amazing, right? All right, I'm going to see you in the next video. I want you to really just embrace what I've said. Think about some of the family patterns that you have, some of the programs that you may be somebody that never walks out the door without a hat. And notice that your whole family never walks out of the door without a hat, no matter what. You just do. Why you never thought about it? You just take a hat. Everybody takes a hat. Maybe you're an umbrella person. Ever notice that there's the umbrella people and the non-umbrella people? I'm a non-umbrella. I don't own an umbrella, and I live in one of the rainiest places there is. Never have an umbrella. But you may be the umbrella person. Everybody uses an umbrella. You use an umbrella, that's what you do. You don't even think about it. What ways can you contemplate that you are programmed and patterned that you know of? That it could be physical, emotional, the same things you were stuck in, you have programs and patterns about. Emotional, physical, mental. Why don't you think about those? If you're really bold, why don't you write them down and take that piece of paper that you had and go ahead and write some of these things down. Like, this is what my family always said. This is what we always do. I haven't even thought about the fact that I do this, but that's just how we do. Everything from how you brush your teeth to, how you eat. And then I want you to also contemplate the difference between rebellion and revolutionary. So if you're a rebel, you've been moving away from things, meaning that you have created a pathway in your brain that tells you, don't follow anybody. Don't trust anybody. Trust your intuition. Forge that flame. If somebody has a pattern, you can probably do differently. Yes, I know that recipe called for this much, and this much, but I'm going to make it like this. And if things turn out great for you all the time, that's fabulous. But if you make a real assessment and go, sometimes my rebellion is keeping me from actually doing things that might help me and make my life better, my hand's in the air. I was a rebel for years and years and years, and I didn't understand that being a revolutionary is different, because being a revolutionary means you are not moving away from something, you're moving towards things. And that includes having mentors or people that are smarter or more successful or have guides that have been there before utilizing things at your resources to help you move forward faster is a really smart thing to do. And that took me forever to figure out because I was so entrenched in that rebellion pathway. I was like, I would sooner die than move out of that pathway. It was amazing. When I got out of it, was like, wow, there's so much more awesomeness. Okay, see you in the next video, which is tomorrow. Bye.